Doctors said my daughter would never hear again. For years I believed them. For years I watched her live in silence. Until the new maid in my home discovered something hidden deep inside my child's ear. Something that should have never been there. What she found did not only restore my daughter's hearing. It exposed a betrayal years in the making. My name is Adriana Cole, and for 4 years, my world had been a quiet place. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that follows you down hallways. Wraps around your chest. And reminds you every second that the person you love the most cannot hear you. My daughter, Lena, once laughed louder than any child I'd known. She used to clap when she was happy, squeal when she ran through sprinklers, and sing nonsense songs in the car. But after she fell from the little backyard swing at age 3, everything went silent. Doctors said the accident caused irreversible nerve damage. They spoke in heavy voices, using words like permanent and lifelong condition. I accepted it because grief makes you believe whatever you're told. Over time, Lena learned to live without sound. She watched lips, read expressions, responded to lights and gestures. But she never said another word. So yes, silence lived in my house. And I had grown used to it. But everything changed the day Mara Ruiz walked through my door. She arrived early on a Monday morning, suitcase in hand, hair pulled back in a neat braid, eyes calm but observant. "I'm here for the live-in maid position," she said softly. Something in her tone was steady, almost grounding. I needed that. After firing our previous nanny, Sophia, 2 weeks earlier, the house had become even heavier. I hired Mara on the spot. She didn't talk much. Didn't ask unnecessary questions. Didn't pry into our family's tragedy like most applicants did. Instead, she simply said, "I'll take good care of Lena, Mr. Cole." I didn't know then that she would become the one person who would save us. Lena was sitting on the living room rug when Mara entered the house for the first time. Her tiny fingers were moving in front of her as she arranged wooden animal toys in a perfectly symmetrical line. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, kneeling beside her. She looked up at me, smiled softly, then turned her eyes to Mara, curious but cautious. Mara knelt too, but she didn't touch Lena or speak loudly. Instead, she gently waved. Slow, patient. And offered a small stuffed bunny. Lena blinked, processed her presence, then reached out and took it. A simple gesture. But one that told me Mara understood children far better than she let on. That evening, as I walked past Lena's room, I heard something fall, not loud, but sharp. Instinctively, I froze. Lena usually didn't react to sound. But this time, I saw her head jerk up. She turned toward the noise. It must be coincidence, I whispered to myself. But I didn't believe that. I stepped inside. Mara was tidying toys, looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cole," I dropped one of the baskets. I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Lena. She was staring directly at the fallen basket. As if she had heard it. Mara noticed my confusion. "Does she sometimes sense vibrations?" she asked carefully. "Yes," I answered quickly. "Doctor said she can feel pressure changes. It's normal." But it wasn't normal. Not like this. Lena wasn't reacting to vibration. She had reacted too fast, too naturally. As if her ears had heard a sound they weren't supposed to detect. Over the next few days, Mara moved quietly around the house, but she observed everything. Not in a suspicious way, in a gentle, thoughtful way. And I noticed something. Lena responded to her. She followed Mara with her eyes. She laughed silently, but still laughed. She let Mara braid her hair, feed her soup, and hold her hand on walks. One evening, I found Mara kneeling near Lena as she played with a music box, one that I kept only because it was her late mother's gift. When the box wound open, the ballerina twirled silently, or so I thought. Lena's fingers fluttered. Her face tightened. Her eyes flicked toward the music box as if something bothered her. I rushed forward. "She can't hear that," I said too quickly. Mara didn't argue. She simply closed the box and murmured. Sometimes children sense things adults miss. The next morning, I watched something that made my chest tighten. I was standing behind the kitchen archway when Mara accidentally dropped a spoon on the floor. It hit hard. A sharp metal clatter. And Lena, playing with crayons on the living room carpet, turned her head immediately. Not slowly. Not confused. Immediately. Her eyes tracked the direction of the sound. My breath caught. She had heard it. She had heard it. My mind refused to believe what my heart already knew. Mara, I whispered later, do you think she reacts to sound? Mara didn't answer right away. She looked toward Lena, then back at me. Mr. Cole, she said softly, I think something is blocking her hearing. Not her brain, not her nerves, something physical. I stared at her. That's impossible. But she shook her head gently. Impossible things don't happen twice, Mr. Cole. And I've seen her react more than once. There was a pause. A heavy one. Then she added something that made my stomach drop. I also noticed dried blood behind her left ear, like something was forced inside long ago. That night, after putting Lena to bed, I sat alone on the edge of the living room sofa. My heart was pounding. My head felt foggy. Nothing made sense. Every doctor had insisted on total deafness. Every test, every scan, the same verdict. So how could Mara be right? I stood to pour a glass of water, and that's when I saw it. A crumpled medical receipt under the couch from 2 years ago. From Dr. Ellington's clinic. But the handwriting wasn't mine. It was Sophia's, our old nanny. And the treatment listed? Ear canal obstruction removal attempt, child patient. My blood ran cold. The house felt quiet again. But this silence felt different. Not natural. Not peaceful. A silence hiding something. And I realized. Lena's condition wasn't an accident. Someone did this to her. I could not sleep that night. The medical receipt lay on the coffee table in front of me, a small piece of paper that held far too many questions. Why had Sophia taken Lena to Dr. Ellington without telling me? Why was the description written so vaguely? And most importantly, why was there any mention of blockage inside my daughter's ear when every doctor had repeatedly insisted her hearing loss was neurological? My head felt heavy with fear and confusion. The next morning, Mara noticed my pale face the moment she stepped into the kitchen. You did not sleep, she said gently while preparing Lena's breakfast. I held up the receipt. Did you know Sophia took Lena to the clinic 2 years after the accident? Mara's brows knitted together. No. She never mentioned it. I looked toward Lena. She was sitting at the dining table, legs swinging, drawing a picture of a house with a purple crayon. She looked peaceful. Innocent. Quiet. Too quiet. I turned back to Mara. Something is wrong. I feel it. Mara took a slow breath. Let me check her ear. Carefully. You can watch. I hesitated. But a voice inside me whispered that I needed to know the truth. All right, I said. Mara sat with Lena on the bed in the child's room. She turned the lamp on to get enough light and spoke softly to Lena using simple gestures. I am just looking. It will not hurt. Lena nodded. She trusted Mara, sometimes more than she trusted me. Mara tilted Lena's head slightly and parted the hair behind her left ear. Her expression changed immediately. Look, she whispered. I moved closer. In the warm light, I saw a faint reddish mark behind the ear. Not fresh, but not old either. Mara gently lifted the ear with her thumb and looked inside with a small phone flashlight. Then she froze. Mr. Cole. What is it? My heart pounded. Something is inside. Something deep. It looks like a piece of foam. I felt the room tilt. No. That cannot be. Foam does not just appear inside a child's ear. Mara's voice remained calm. Foam can be placed. Her words hit me like cold water. Placed. I swallowed hard. Can you remove it? I will try. Very slowly. She asked me to sit beside Lena and hold her hand. I did. Mara used a pair of sterilized tweezers from her medical kit. She worked slowly and gently, careful not to hurt the child. Lena winced slightly but stayed still. Then, a small, thin piece of synthetic foam slid out. Not dust. Not dirt. A manufactured piece of foam. And not from a toy. Mara held it carefully in her gloved hand. This is industrial ear foam, she said quietly. You cannot find this in children's products. Someone had to insert it deliberately. My legs went weak. How long could this have been inside? Months. Maybe years. Foam does not dissolve easily. I stared at the object. The ugly truth stood before me. Someone had blocked my daughter's hearing. Not nature. Not fate. Someone. Before I could speak, Mara leaned closer to Lena and whispered softly. Lena, can you hear me? Lena blinked. Her eyes widened. She turned toward Mara's lips, then toward her voice. Oh my God. The words escaped my mouth before I could stop them. Mara spoke a little louder. Lena, sweetheart, can you hear this sound? She tapped a wooden block on the bedside table. The small knock echoed softly. Lena turned immediately. Not hesitantly. Not slowly. Immediately. Her little face lit up with something I had not seen in years. Recognition. Sound. She reached toward the block. She put her hands over her ears as if overwhelmed. Then she laughed. A tiny soft laugh that broke my heart. My daughter had heard something. She had heard something for the first time in years. And all this time, the doctors told me her ears were dead. All this time, specialists said there was no cure. All this time, they insisted the problem was deep inside her brain. And yet here she was, reacting to sound the moment the foam was removed. I covered my mouth, trying not to fall apart. Mara placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Mr. Cole, she said softly, this was no natural condition. Someone prevented your daughter from hearing. The disbelief, anger, and heartbreak blended inside me like a storm. But the next question was the most terrifying of all. Why? I whispered. I called Dr. Ellington immediately. When he arrived, he walked into the house with the same calm authority he always carried. Adrian, what was so urgent? He asked. I held up the piece of foam. Explain this. He stared at it without blinking. I would not know anything about that. His tone was too flat. Too controlled. Mara stepped forward. When we removed it, she reacted to sound instantly. Dr. Ellington's jaw tightened. Impossible. Her scans proved nerve damage. You lied, I said, my voice shaking. For 4 years, you lied to me. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Be careful with your accusations. You are a grieving father. Your emotions are not stable. A cold chill ran down my spine. There it was. The same manipulation he had been using for years. Get out, I said quietly. He smirked. You have no idea what you are starting. Then he left the house. The moment the door closed, Mara whispered. He is hiding something. Someone helped him. And someone else was paid to keep it quiet. I felt dizzy. You mean Sophia? Mara nodded. And this is only the beginning. I sat on the couch with the piece of foam in my hand, staring at it. My daughter had been forced into silence. Not by fate. Not by injury. But by people I trusted. Just then, Mara approached me holding something she found in Sophia's old drawer. A sealed envelope. Inside it was a document. A financial ledger. With payment entries. From Dr. Ellington. To Sophia. Over several years. My hands shook. There was no doubt anymore. This was a planned betrayal. A calculated deception. And I had no idea how deep it went. I stared at the ledger on the coffee table, my fingers numb as I flipped through the pages. There were dates going back almost 3 years. Every entry marked with 2 names. Dr. Ellington. Sophia. The numbers beside each month were large. Too large for any legitimate service. Mara sat across from me, her expression calm but stern. "This is not an accident," she said softly. "Someone benefited from keeping your daughter in silence." My chest tightened with dread. Why would anyone do this to a child? Mara did not answer immediately. She looked toward the hallway where Lena was coloring quietly. Sometimes money changes people. And sometimes control is more seductive than kindness. Her words chilled me. I picked up the ledger again, feeling my pulse throb against my skin. "It cannot be true," I whispered. "It is," Mara replied quietly. "And we need proof." She stood and walked toward the old nanny's former room. I followed her. The room was mostly empty, except for a few boxes I had not touched since firing Sophia. Mara began opening them one by one. Inside the second box, she found a small black phone wrapped in a scarf. "Look," she said, handing it to me. I unlocked it using the simple pattern Sophia used on her old phone. The screen lit up with dozens of messages. Most of them were between Sophia and a contact labeled simply as E. My breath stopped. E stood for Ellington. I clicked the first message. "She still reacts to loud noises. Should I add more?" My vision blurred. The next few messages were even worse. "Do not remove anything. Push deeper but slowly so he does not notice. He believes us completely. He is emotional and easy to manage. The father will never question a medical diagnosis. Just keep your story consistent." My hands shook violently. These people had treated my grief like a tool. They had turned my trust into their weapon. Mara placed a steady hand on my back. "Adrian, we need to save the rest before anyone deletes them." She copied everything to her phone. Every message. Every audio clip. Every transaction screenshot. She backed it up twice. Only then did she meet my eyes. "You have been living in a controlled illusion. They kept your daughter in silence because it allowed them to control you and to profit from unnecessary treatments that never helped her." I felt sick. "You mean, ever since the fall on the swing?" Mara shook her head gently. "Lena could hear even after the accident. They blocked her hearing over time. The nerves were never damaged." I sank onto Sophia's old chair, feeling my entire world crumble. "And all of it, for money?" "Money and power," Mara replied. I covered my face with both hands. I had trusted the wrong people for years. I had believed a lie because it was handed to me by someone wearing a white coat. I had let strangers take control of my child's life while I watched helplessly. A sudden knock snapped me out of my thoughts. 3 sharp, forceful taps. Mara's face changed instantly. "Do not answer that," she whispered. But I already knew who stood on the other side of the door. I walked to the living room and looked through the peephole. My stomach dropped. Dr. Ellington. He stood rigid, his jaw tight, his eyes carrying a coldness I had never seen before. The sun glared behind him, making his silhouette sharp and unnerving. He knocked again. "Adrian," he called. "We need to talk." I stepped back without opening the door. Mara appeared behind me quietly. "Do not let him in." He knocked a third time, louder. "Open the door. Now." His voice had lost its gentle, polished tone. This voice belonged to someone who felt cornered. Someone dangerous. I spoke through the door, keeping my voice steady. Leave. You are not welcome here. There was a pause. A long heavy pause. Then his tone shifted into something darker. You do not understand what you are dealing with. Give me the phone piece and the documents. You have no idea how much trouble you are inviting. My heart hammered in my chest. We are done. Leave. He exhaled sharply. You have 2 hours to rethink this. Then he walked away. Mare locked the door firmly. Adrian, she whispered, he knows you found the proof. We need to act before he tries something irreversible. I swallowed hard. What do you mean by irreversible? She looked me directly in the eyes. He may try to erase evidence. Or he may try to make you look unstable. And if he goes far enough, he might try to take Lena. A cold fear wrapped itself around me. Then what do? We take Lena to a real specialist, Mara said. Someone Ellington does not control. We get a proper medical confirmation. And then we go straight to the police. I nodded slowly. It was the only way. Mara placed her hand on my arm. Pack a small bag. Take her medical papers. We leave quietly. Tonight. Her voice held no panic. Only certainty. But before I could respond, a soft sound drifted from the hallway. We both turned. Lena stood there in her pajamas. She looked at us. Then she opened her mouth and spoke a single word. A tiny, fragile word that shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. Papa. My knees nearly gave out. Mara covered her mouth in shock, tears gathering in her eyes. Lena had spoken. She had heard. She had found her voice again. But if she could speak now. We were running out of time. The moment Lena spoke, everything inside me broke. All the years of grief, confusion, and helplessness came crashing down at once. I pulled her into my arms, holding her as tightly as I dared, afraid that if I let go, her voice might disappear again. Mara knelt beside us, tears slipping down her face. She heard you, she whispered. She really heard you. Lena smiled and rested her head on my shoulder. Her small hands curled into my shirt as if she knew instinctively that something was happening. Something massive. Something dangerous. Mara placed a gentle hand on my back. We need to leave now. I nodded, wiped my eyes, and stood. Within minutes, we packed a small suitcase, grabbed Lena's medical folder, the piece of foam, and the copied evidence. Mara kept everything secure in her bag. Before stepping outside, we checked through the blinds. Dr. Ellington was gone. The driveway looked empty. But the fear he planted stayed in my bones. We slipped quietly into my car. Lena sat in the back seat with her stuffed bunny, humming in a soft whisper. It was the most beautiful sound I had heard in years. We drove an hour out of town to a private pediatric clinic owned by Dr. Reyes, a respected ENT surgeon with no connection to Ellington. When we arrived, Dr. Reyes welcomed us immediately without questions. He examined Lena gently, using his own equipment, taking time, explaining everything carefully. After a long minute, he looked at me. Mr. Cole, your daughter has perfectly functional hearing. There is no nerve damage. No sign of neurological trauma. There is nothing wrong with her auditory system. I closed my eyes, feeling the breath leave my lungs. But I found foam inside her ear, I said. A synthetic piece. She reacted to sound as soon as it was removed. Dr. Reyes nodded with a somber expression. What you described is consistent with forced obstruction. Someone placed those pieces inside her ear. He paused. His voice became even more serious. If this had continued, it could have caused permanent infection or long-term damage. Whoever did this committed a criminal act. My hands curled into fists. Mara squeezed my shoulder. We have the evidence, doctor, she said softly. Dr. Reyes printed a full medical report stating clearly that Lena's hearing was normal and that her previous diagnosis was false. "We need to take this to the authorities right away," he said. I nodded. "We will." By the time we returned to the city, the afternoon sun had dipped lower, painting the sky in orange and gold. The fear inside me felt heavier, but the truth was now undeniable. I had proof. I had witnesses. I had a medical report. I had every message Sophia and Ellington exchanged. We drove straight to the police station. Detective Harris, a calm and experienced officer, listened carefully as I explained everything. Mara handed over the copied files, the messages, the photos, and the audio clips. She explained how she found the phone, how Lena reacted, and how Ellington threatened us. When we finished, Detective Harris nodded firmly. "You both did the right thing. This is a severe case of medical fraud and child endangerment. We are issuing an immediate warrant for the doctor's arrest." I took a deep breath. "Thank you." He added, "We will also contact Sophia. She will be questioned as well." As we left the station, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice spoke. "Adrian, you should not have gone this far." "Dr. Ellington." My heart pounded. "You are finished," I said quietly. His voice turned cold. "You think you won, but you have no idea who I am connected to. I do not care who you know. The police have everything." There was silence. Then he spoke in a low, dangerous tone. "You will regret this." Before I could respond, Detective Harris reached over my shoulder and took the phone. "This is the police. We are tracing this call. Stay where you are." The line clicked dead instantly. Detective Harris shook his head. "He knows he is going to jail. That is why he is rattling you. Do not worry. We have officers heading to his residence now." I nodded, adrenaline still burning in my veins. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control of my life again. 2 hours later, the police called. They had arrested Dr. Ellington outside his clinic. Sophia was found hiding at a relative's apartment. She confessed everything. Every payment. Every instruction. Every secret meeting. She explained that Ellington used her greed and fear. He promised her money. He told her I would never know. He convinced her that blocking Lena's hearing made her valuable as a long-term patient. It was sickening. But it was over. Detective Harris told me the charges included criminal neglect, medical fraud, child endangerment, falsifying medical records, conspiracy. Both Ellington and Sophia were taken into custody without bail. When the call ended, I sat on the living room couch in silence for a long moment. Then I felt a small tug at my sleeve. Lena. She climbed onto my lap, looked up at me with eyes full of trust, and whispered. "I can hear you, Papa." I pressed my forehead to hers and cried. Not with sadness. Not with anger. With overwhelming relief. Weeks passed. Lena began speech therapy and made remarkable progress. Her first full sentence was directed at Mara. "Thank you for helping me." Mara froze, tears filling her eyes. "You gave me my daughter back," I said quietly. She smiled softly and touched Lena's cheek. She just needed someone to listen. I offered Mara a new position. Not as a maid. Not as a caretaker. As part of our family. She accepted. Our home was no longer silent. No longer heavy with grief. No longer filled with lies. There was laughter. There was healing. There was sound again. And it was beautiful. One evening, as the sun set through the windows, Lena sat on my lap, leaning against my chest. "Papa," she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart? Will I ever be silent again?" I kissed the top of her head. "Never again," I said. I will protect your voice for the rest of my life. She smiled, closed her eyes, and whispered, I love you, Papa. And the world felt full again. Full of sound. Full of truth. Full of hope. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who break our world without remorse. But the truth always finds a way back. Thank you for watching this emotional journey. If you want more stories with powerful twists, courage, and justice, subscribe to TwistRoom. And remember, voices can be silenced, but truth cannot.